now, we can't say for sure she has direct experience on the capital market, isn't it?
No. I believe that she must have, because where she worked in the ADB, I believe that it's also a lot of capital market operations. I did hear the Mr. Mohammed saying, where did she work? A bank? You can work in a bank and also have capital market experience, because because of our job, most of the banks have officials who operate their offer or their public capital market operations within those banks. These are experience. You don't have to be registered as a capital market operator to be able to do that in the bank. You can actually be in the bank and have better experience than we have. The man who taught me a lot about capital market was in the bank. He's not a lawyer. But I learned a lot from him because he was the head of capital market operations in a bank.
So what would you have the House of Representatives do now? Because, or should I say the DG of SEC, because they seem to have taken a stance that this is the resolution we passed. It hasn't been abided by. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to recognize her as the DG of SEC. And that is their stance. Do you think that the DG of SEC should be bothered?
Well, naturally, that kind of resolution will bother anybody. Because, you really cannot do this work when you have that kind of pressures on you. But I also think that that kind of pressure is unhelpful to the market. See, this resolution, since she came back, you can see that there's been a lot happening in the market. There appears to be some upswing in the market. Now, with this resolution, it's going to dampen the market again. You see, we need some stability in the place. All this, I thought that by now, since they've made the recommendation to the president, they would have just left it at that. But in any case, don't forget that the president also have decided to bring her back into her job.
Was it the president?
Well, the Secretary of Government signed the letter.
Okay. Do you think that, the relationship between the House and the legislature, the executive, should be better managed? Because it seems she's just in the middle of this all. If the House says she should go, recommending it to the president, but the president says she should stay, it seems she's just in the middle of a mess.
I agree, but it's the president, really. Don't forget that the executive has powers to run the government, or run the state.
Can she go to court?
I mean, she?
Yeah.
So she has no reason to go to court.
It will not be her in her place to go to court.
She's on her job. Going to court has nothing to do with her.
It's
a matter between the House and the presidency.
Zakir Mohammed likened it to the doctrine of necessity, which the entire nation held on to. That's why we're here today. So if we say they don't have any kind of force in their resolutions, he's telling us we should go back, cast our minds back to what happened in 2000 and was it 10?
Yes, a doctrine of necessity applies where there's no provision in the law. If there's no provision, because the Constitution did not stipulate certain things. That's why President Jonathan then couldn't come in. Now the National Assembly, both houses, had to come in. But here, the law is very clear. You can go and interpret this law. And I don't think personally that the doctrine of necessity comes in onto this one. And in any case, I'm happy that he also realized that the resolution of the House has no force of law. Let us not kid ourselves. It's a mere resolution. What binds the president, it's when both houses pass a bill and send it to the president, and the president assents. Or he fails to assent after 30 days, and it goes back, and there's a 2/3 majority overriding that refusal to assent, and that becomes law.
Yeah, but the thing is, yes, it may not have a force of law from the point of law, but politicians will always tell you, you can't keep disregarding the resolutions of the National Assembly. You do that at your peril, because eventually, if they turn against you, you could be out.
I agree, but you see, again, we look at the peculiar circumstance of Nigeria. We copy the US. If we look at the way they also carry on their own activities in the House, whether in the House of Reps, even though one House is dominated by Republicans, the other one by Senate, but you can see that on basic issues, most issues they agree on. But here, it becomes something of an ego. the House of Reps says you must go. Well, Senate has said nothing yet. I'm sure Senate probably decides not to say anything because it doesn't concern them. There's been no request from the president for her to be removed. So the Senate has nothing.
Even when the Senate had said something, the executive didn't listen.
Well, that's also a resolution of the Senate.
Yeah.
You don't forget, it's a resolution of the Senate. I believe that if both houses of National Assembly really pass a joint resolution, for instance,
like this
maybe
CBN matter,
yeah,
or including this DG of SEC matter too.
Well, no. DG of SEC, maybe if Senate, the day Senate, because it's the Senate that will want to remove, has the power to remove her. Maybe the day the Senate also passes that resolution, then we know that's a problem.
Okay, but you talked about by now you expected them to have moved on, the SEC walking ahead, but you saw part of that live house seats in public hearing, if not all of it. How will all of those disagreements between the leadership in SEC, how will they make them work well? And how will that even instill confidence in the sector? Because investors, when they see all of that infighting, they'll be like, look, environmental factors are some of the things investors even consider before you go invest in any area.
Yes, but don't forget, the little I know about SEC and its administration, it's SEC has been fashioned along the lines of the civil service. It was a civil service body, and each time I attend the SEC Capital Market Committee Rules Subcommittee meeting, and we listen to each other. Everybody from the various aspects of the market tells us what their problems are with SEC. I find that there's a lot wrong in the place, and that needs to be cleansed. And we know in this country, the moment you start to cleanse anything, many people feel threatened. If you ask me, there are a number of dead woods in SEC that should go. There are many dead woods in SEC that should go. But like every public sector organization in this country, people stay there, do no work, or to get them to do the work, you have to induce them. And sometimes they take decisions which are wrong. And there are so many decisions that have been taken which were wrong, which also contributed immensely to the near crash in 2008-2009 because of wrong decisions or people not doing the correct thing. So I think that time has come, and many people resist this idea of bringing in somebody from outside. I think that I'm particularly happy with this government that sometimes you bring in people, whatever they come from, who are knowledgeable in a field. Let them come and help. I know internally most people want to rise there and get to the top, but we can't keep doing the same thing all over again. We need to improve, we need to make progress. And in my view, this is what Arumote has been doing since she came. We have seen so many of the regulations churned out, and if they are implemented.
Would you advise the executive to go to court, since it was seen that they are the party that is seeing another interpretation of the law, and all of this arguments is based on a phrase of the law, operations operator?
Well, I do not think that the executive has any business going to court now. Because the fact that the House...
It's definitely not the House, because the House is taking a stance. You have not abided by a resolution, and we have chosen not to recognize her as the DG of SEC. That is a problem for the executive. That is not a problem for the House.
Well, what the House is doing really is if the president does nothing, it's a problem for the market. Because once this problem continues...
Which the executive should be bothered about, right?
Well, they should. But the executive also must be fair to everybody. They have also... The reason why she was suspended initially was because there was some problems with the Project 50, for which they appointed an independent body to look at. The independent body looked at it and cleared her. And the president, quite rightly in my view, said since the independent body has cleared her, we have no choice but to put her back, because the president himself cannot move her. So it would have been wrong not to have reinstated her, regardless of what the House recommendation is.
But it was not on Project 50 that she was indicted. It was on the qualification for...
No. I'm talking about when she was removed, first of all, as the DG, when she was suspended as DG, it was based on Project 50. Now, Project 50 was cleared and she was reinstated. Now, they are talking about the
resolution.
The qualification. I mean, why don't they refer them out to the Attorney General Federation, for instance? I mean, there are things they can get anything cleared out. But in my view, and the view of most capital market operators, with due respect, I think that House of Reps is wrong.
Yeah, but it doesn't just depend on the views of the capital market operators alone.
Yeah, I agree.